Pod Me If You Can is brought to you by The Glove by Australian author David Farrell. Head to facebook.com/theglovebook for more information.
Welcome to Pod Me If You Can, I'm David Farrell. Today on the show, the film is Free Money from 1998. It stars Marlon Brando, Charlie Sheen, Thomas Hayden Church, Mira Sorvino, and Donald Sutherland.
Pardon Me If You Can, movie reviews.
Bud, Charlie Sheen, and Larry, Thomas Hayden Church, have knocked up the twin daughters of the Swede, played by Marlon Brando, and they marry them in a twin shotgun wedding. Their new father-in-law, the Swede, is a corrupt prison warden that shoots anyone that tries to escape. The boys are making no money and being forced into slave labor by the Swede, and living in a prison-like conditions in his home. Bud ropes Larry into a get-rich-quick scheme to steal a trainload of old worn-out currency on its way to be destroyed. But if they're caught, they'll wind up in the Swede's prison for real. This film went straight to video. It was filmed in Canada, and Charlie Sheen is credited as Charles Sheen because this was during a period of sobriety. Marlon Brando is like a giant cartoon character here. He really destroys that image you had of him in his prime. It's not the Marlon Brando you want to see. His frame is gigantic, and while it works for his character, who has to be intimidating and be a big presence in every scene, physically he can't move around as well. He does a lot of sitting and standing, and one ridiculous stunt where they have his head go into a toilet bowl. I found his twin daughters, who Charlie Sheen and Thomas Hayden Church's characters are forced to marry, very annoying. They mostly speak in unison and are terrible wives and terrible characters, really terrible people. It feels like Mira Sorvino's FBI character is the most underdeveloped character in the film, though. She doesn't get a partner, she's just coming back to her hometown, but she's somehow there on FBI business as well. It really is a conflict of interest because her father is Donald Sutherland, who is in a glorified cameo as well. Neither Mira Sorvino's character or Donald Sutherland's character really have a place in this story, and except to be mistreated by Marlon Brando's character. At one point he says to her, "Listen, Dykey, go back to Washington and tell all your muff-diving friends how things are here." There is a weak storyline for her here. She's a very weak character, and cowers at the thought of being hit by her own high heel at one point. Some scenes are just cringeworthy. When Bud and Larry are forced to move in with the Swede and his two twin daughters, he runs the house like a prison with a once-a-month conjugal visit, which he polices by barging through doors at times. The worst scene, though, is when he has a cattle prod, and he takes turns electrocuting Bud and Larry when their sins include things like taking the Lord's name in vain. So the scheme that Bud cooks up, where he's going to steal this old currency from a train, it really falls into his lap with the exposition and the other characters in a diner who just talk about it and, let him have this scheme. The plot seems really overly complicated, though, and then when he gets the money, he goes and spends it, even though it's old currency, making it incredibly obvious that he's the one that stole it. I just don't understand why the boys would allow the Swede to cattle prod them and treat them this way. Pretty much like marrying their daughters, only one of whom is actually pregnant, is not like this amazing thing that they can't live without. They're not actually really in love with the daughters at all. So you feel like at some point they might just run away and leave town. The Swede's power seems to only, be in that specific district. Alternatively, their complicated plan could have just been to kill the Swede and make it look like an accident, therefore being able to live with the daughters and not be under his thumb. Even though everybody is hamming it up at times, this is meant to be a comedy and it is not at all funny. It feels like somebody saw Fargo and tried to make a watered-down black comedy version of Fargo. One annoying trope of the film is that some scenes end in a freeze frame and then a fade to black, but it's not the end of the movie, it's just the end of the scene. I didn't enjoy that at all. The sisters are very dim-witted, Thomas Hayden Church is too. These are the kind of characters that put tomato sauce on their Doritos. David Arquette has a cameo in 2 scenes as a car salesman. Martin Sheen is at the end of the film for about 10 seconds. And as I said, Donald Sutherland, it feels like he's barely in this film, but he plays a judge. This feels like a strange vanity project. No one gives a performance that's very memorable. It's very uneven and very unfunny, and I can't recommend Free Money at all.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Check out our podcast at www.podmeifyoucan.com.